Early voting kicked off here in the natural state this week. I'm Ashley King on this 11 on 11. We're going to break down some of the races voters are deciding on. Dozens of primaries happening now to help set up the races this November. The Secretary of State's office says just a fraction of the state's voters will turn out for these primaries. Only 20 to 25% of the state's 1.8 million voters will make their voices heard, and that's total, not just early voting. That's just 350,000 total votes to decide the people who represent you at the state capitol and in D.C. And your vote could count 4 to 5 times more than if the whole state was voting. Some areas were still reporting record numbers earlier this week, though. One of the biggest races we're watching this year, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders trying to win a second term. THV 11's Carter Thweet checks in on the race to determine a Democratic challenger.
I was born in Arkansas. I have never left Arkansas, and I'm going to ensure that Arkansas works better for all Arkansans.
State Senator Fred Love is running to be the Democratic nominee for governor. Affordability and health care are two major issues he wants to address.
We have an affordability crisis where people can afford homes. They're choosing between paying for medication and paying for food, paying for groceries and paying for their mortgage.
He also says, as a graduate of Arkansas's public schools, he wants to end the voucher program. That's also true with the other Democratic candidate, Supah Zaprasith Mays, a businesswoman from Bentonville.
If you want to have your child go to private school, it should be a choice that you must pay for. You should not use the taxpayers' money.
She says she wanted to run for governor despite not having political experience because she thinks that's what the state needs.
I am not a politician. I am a peopletician. What's that mean? It means that I run to serve the people, the constituent of the state. Not the party, not the position, not the politics.
Whoever takes the primary will run against the current governor, Sarah Sanders. She was unavailable for an interview, so I spoke with her campaign manager, Jordan Powell, who addressed the education question.
Arkansas has made a lot of great strides on that front, whether it's highest starting teacher pay in the country, focusing on literacy, ending indoctrination in our classrooms, empowering parents in their children's education.
He says the governor is just getting started on what she's already done, and she wants to continue to reduce and eventually get rid of the state income tax.
4 more years with Governor Sanders in office, Arkansans can expect to see her continue her fight to responsibly phase out the state income tax.
In Little Rock, Carter Thweet, THV 11 News.
Thank you, Carter. Early voting for the Democratic primary has already begun. Election day is March 3rd, with the race between the Democratic winner and Governor Sanders set for November. Arkansans are also deciding on lawmakers that will represent them in D.C. The congressional race drawing the most attention will be in the middle of the state. It's a race that will most closely sound like campaigns in other parts of the country. THV 11's Tanya Modozitsky talks to 2 of the challengers hoping to keep Republican French Hill from a 7th term.
From the rising cost of living to the push for new jobs, affordability is shaping the conversation in Arkansas's 2nd Congressional District as 4 candidates compete for a seat in Congress.
Bringing back jobs here, opening up product lines, so, that also, our Arkansans have degrees. There's just nowhere to go with it. I want you to own your own land. You're part of the American dream. It's made it extremely difficult because we've allowed big box business to come in and buy all of our single family homes.
Democratic candidate Chris Jones says lowering costs for families starts with the policies that support workers while making Arkansas more competitive for employers.
Our delegation is voted in a way that would close rural hospitals. They're supporting things like tariffs, which are taxes, which are killing our farmers. We have 1 in 3 farmers that are at risk of bankruptcy. We know that when we support the Affordable Care Act, that provides health care to millions of people. Second thing I'll give you real quick is SNAP benefits. We know that when folks have access to SNAP benefits, they have food on their table, and it actually brings down poverty.
Republican challenger Chris McDowell, who's trying to unseat incumbent French Hill, says new technologies like AI can drive economic growth.
I'm not going to pump 7 million gallons of water per plant into the atmosphere because I do care about our brothers and sisters over in Georgia and in our sister states over there. And I don't think that it's wise to pump that much water into the atmosphere when they can be submerged and cooled within itself and you're using just a regular type of a system that you use in your car to keep these servers cool.
Jones argues government must keep a close watch on AI development.
We can have progress and innovation and tech and also do it in a way that directly benefits and helps a large swath of people, the most people. So when I think about things like data centers, the question is, well, what benefit is going to the community?
The race also includes Hill, who emphasized fiscal responsibility and economic growth during his time in office, along with Democratic challenger Zach Hoffman.
Tanya, thank you. We reached out to Hill and Huffman for comments, but they didn't respond by our deadline. We have our most recent interview with Hill on our YouTube page from back in November. Hill is the chairman of the House Banking and Finance Committee. Democrats face an uphill climb in Arkansas's other congressional districts. In the eastern half of the state, the primaries won't be contested. Representative Rick Crawford of Jonesboro will likely face Democrat Dr. Terry Yarborough Green of Paragould in November. She is a retired pathologist. And like French Hill, Crawford is hoping Republicans can hold their majority to retain his spot as chair of the House Intelligence Committee. A similar situation in Northwest Arkansas, where Representative Steve Womack won't face a challenge until November. There is one person running unopposed as a Democrat, Rob Ryers, and filed as an independent is Progressive Christopher Hosever. Womack is seeking his 9th term and sits on the powerful House Appropriations Committee. Democrats in the western and southwestern parts of the state will have to decide who will challenge Republican Bruce Westerman in November. Steve O'Donnell is the Navy veteran and business owner originally from Sevier County. James Russell lost to Chris Jones in the wide open Democratic primary for governor in 2022. He now hopes to challenge Westerman. And one of the most powerful roles in Washington is up for grabs this year, a spot in the United States Senate. THV 11's Journey Taylor takes a closer look at the race, the history behind the seat, and the message each candidate wants voters to hear.
The United States Senate is one of 2 chambers of Congress, with each state electing 2 senators to serve 6-year terms. Senators write and vote on federal laws, confirm Supreme Court justices and cabinet members, ratify treaties, and provide oversight of the executive branch. Arkansas's current junior senator Tom Cotton was first elected to the seat in 2014 after serving in the U.S. House. He won re-election in 2020 and has now spent more than a decade representing Arkansas in Washington. And as voters prepare to head to the polls, we've asked each candidate the same question. Ahead of the primaries, what message are you trying to get out? The incumbent in this race, Senator Tom Cotton, said in a statement that he's worked with President Trump to deliver for Arkansas's conservative values and led the fight against what he calls Biden's radical agenda that hurts Arkansans. He continued by saying, quote, "Arkansans deserve a trusted conservative who delivers, not just talks. I'm proud to have President Trump's endorsement, but the most important endorsement is from Arkansans," end quote. 6th-generation farmer and Democratic candidate Hallie Schaffner spoke with us in person, framing her campaign around economic struggle in everyday Arkansans.
I believe that to fight for Arkansas, you have to know what it's like to live here right now, and I do. Tom Cotton is a resident of Virginia. And when he comes home, which is rare, I mean, he talks to us like he doesn't like us all that much, that he thinks we're stupid. Arkansans are struggling. They're waking up in the morning, they're worried about whether or not they can afford their food, or if their job will be there tomorrow. And really what it's about is getting back to the basics for the people of Arkansas and having someone who understands these struggles, fighting for them every single day in the U.S. Senate.
Democratic candidate Ethan Dunbar, a 34-year military veteran and current 2-term mayor of Louisville, says his campaign centers on cost of living and leadership experience.
Look at our inflation, our cost of living, and how it's affecting our checkbooks now. And who do we think is the best candidate to go in and fight for us? As a leader in a community in rural Arkansas, I understand that there are challenges there. And you know, we need help. We need help to be able to help people just make it from day to day and live well. And with the cost of, you know, healthcare being out of the roof, a lot of them can't afford it. Our public schools are being underfunded. So I think I'm the best candidate because I understand that. I live it every day.
The race also includes 7th-generation Arkansan and state trooper Republican Jeb Little. In a statement, he said, quote, "I am focused on restoring accountability and principled leadership in Washington, starting with the full, unredacted release of the Epstein files to ensure justice for victims and maximum accountability for the VAL people involved. no matter how wealthy and connected they are, end quote. Little also said he's against career politicians and wishes to see term limits for leaders in D.C. And our team reached out to Pastor Micah Ashby's campaign and did not receive a response by our deadline. For THV 11 News, I'm Journey Taylor.
Thank you, Journey. Another race every ballot will have, deciding whether Justice Nicholas Bronny gets to stay on the state Supreme Court. Right now, Bronny is in position 6. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders appointed him at the start of last year, but an appointed justice can't run for their own seat, so he is running for an open one, position 3. Challenging him is attorney and law professor John Adams. The race is nonpartisan, but Bronny has been endorsed by the state's Republican leadership, and Adams has run for Congress and the state legislature as a Democrat in the past. We've looked at some of the biggest races across the state that could get some national attention. After the break, some more local races and the controversies following a couple of candidates. Welcome back. A state Senate candidate is defending his business partnership with a man convicted of internet stalking a teenager. The development comes less than 2 weeks ahead of the March 3rd primary election. Trey Bohannon is running against incumbent State Senator Ronald Caldwell for State Senate District 10. Both are Republicans, but Bohannon was recently endorsed by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Not long after that endorsement, Arkansas First News reported that Bohannon's company lists Christian Trey Ashcroft as an incorporator and organizer. According to a press release from the Eastern District of Arkansas, Ashcroft pleaded guilty to internet stalking in 2017 and was sentenced to 24 months in prison. We reached out to Bohannon about Ashcroft's record and his employment at Trey Boder Media. He sent us this video.
All right, guys, anybody read the article yesterday? Basically, they're trying to smear my name saying Trey's got a bunch of convicts at his work. And they're right. I do have a bunch, and they've had a bunch here for a long time. They come straight out of the rehab down the road, and I give them all a second chance. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a born-again Christian, and I believe in second chances for people. We've changed a lot of lives right here at this company by giving people second chances, and I'll continue to do it, and I'll stand on business on that. Come on.
Bohannon also shared a statement with us calling the story an attack and distraction. You can read that and more about this story right now on THV11.com. And as we mentioned before, Bohannon and his opponent are Republicans. Whoever wins on March 3rd will not face a Democratic challenger in November. Meanwhile, there's a special election to fill a seat in the state's other chamber. House District 70 covers Sherwood and parts of North Little Rock. It's been held by a Republican in recent years, but often by very close margins. THV 11's Catherine Rowley checks in on the race.
While most of the state will be heading to the polls for primary elections to see who will be running in November, voters in District 70 have another ballot in their hands. This one's to decide who will represent them at the fiscal session this year.
You just need to know that I'm a family man from North Little Rock. I work at UMS and statewide healthcare on a daily basis. We fill in healthcare gaps all across the state on a daily basis, and I want them to come out and vote for me because I want to work hard for North Little Rock and Sherwood. We need affordability. We need to be able to have good school systems. They're concerned about things in health insurance and rising costs, and so I'm the same way.
Alex Holliday ran for this seat in 2024, where he lost by 286 votes. To win this time, he's focused on pocketbook issues for working families. That has worked for Democrats elsewhere this cycle.
I'm all about universal pre-K, whether that is in form of legislation or is that a family child care tax credit, whatever it is. That's one of my biggest things.
Bo Renshaw is looking to keep the seat in the GOP column after Carlton Wing resigned to lead Arkansas PBS. Affordability and bitter politics are main topics that he is seeing on the campaign trail too.
Tired of the partisan politics. That's a growing concern, and I understand that. I'm tired of that too. So I'm ready to go to be able to represent our district and be that person that can work past some of these issues.
The state Democratic Party went to court to force Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders into holding this special vote before the fiscal session that negotiates the state budget for the next year. Both candidates are eager to get their district a seat at that table.
I would say vote for Alex Holiday because he's a man of the people.
They've been able to help me start a business, grow a business. They've helped raise my kids. So just excited for the potential opportunity to be able to give back.
So if you're a District 70 voter and you're heading to the polls, it's important to remember that you should have a minimum of 3 ballots. One for the primaries. That's a Republican and a Democratic ballot. Those will be separate. You can go in and vote for those. Then you would either have to check back in and have a special election ballot, or either way. Either way, there should be at least 3 ballots that you vote for. Again, 2 for the primary, 1 for the special election. In North Little Rock, Catherine Rowley, THV 11 News.
Catherine, thank you. There's another high-profile special election going on right now, also after a lawsuit, this one in the River Valley, Senate District 26. The race pits Republican Brad Simon against independent Adam Watson. The issue at the center of this campaign, both the GOP primary and runoff, is whether to support the proposed 3,000-bed prison the Huckabee Sanders administration wants to build in Franklin County. Both candidates say they are opposed to it. In fact, Watson started a political action group, Gravel and Grit, to organize resistance. And the race for Pulaski County prosecuting attorney is shaping up as a contest between 2 candidates with different approaches to crime and both facing questions about their past. THV 11's Tanya Motorzitsky breaks down where incumbent Will Jones and challenger Bobby Forrest Jr. stand.
Both candidates in the Pulaski and Perry County prosecutors' race agree on one thing: gun violence must be addressed. Where they differ is how they get there. Incumbent Will Jones says his office has focused on holding violent offenders accountable while also working with the community partners to prevent repeat offenders. He says when he came into office, it was 2022, a year after the most deadly time in Pulaski County that had 119 homicides. He says they reduced violent crime by 44% and shares they recently brought in a program called Group Violence Intervention that mimics how the city of Pine Bluff is working to reduce crime.
It really is an intervention, and it gives them something to replace the need to carry a gun. And it gives them, we bring them in and set them down and say, look, you're on this path. Let's get you off of this path. Let's get you some job training. Let's get you education. Let's get you some services. And we have all of that together. But if you won't do that, then you're going to leave us with no choice. We don't want to fill up more prisons.
If reelected, he says he's excited about working with the Arkansas Criminal Intelligence Network, a more than $5 million federal grant that it's first of its kind.
Law enforcement data sharing network in Arkansas. There's not another one in the country anywhere. It's going to be run out of our office, and the entire state of Arkansas law enforcement will have a chance to share information at the touch of a button, which means crimes are solved faster.
His opponent, Bobby Forrest Jr., an attorney who's former law enforcement and business owner, says Pulaski and Perry County, says his backgrounds will shape a different approach with a focus on cracking down on gun crime. With a focus on cracking down on gun crime through what he calls his Smart Justice Initiative.
Looking at, well, what are the root causes of crime? And so we kind of see crime come out of 3 areas. That's going to be poverty, mental health, and addiction. And so we, as prosecutors, have an ability to look at those areas and to give back and invest in that as well, so that we're not also just clogging our system.
He says he plans to do that while working to break the school-to-prison pipeline by seeing what families, schools, and other partners need.
People that start off being truant, they get into a cycle, and we'll see them in the system later on. If we know these things, then we got to focus very early at paying attention. If we know that young men without fathers is going to be a problem, then we need to partner with schools. Our job is to prosecute what comes in front of us, but it doesn't stop us from being community partners, from being in schools, talking with them, partnering with the city as well.
That's their take on the issues, but both candidates have had their share of controversy leading up to elections. Jones recently made headlines for an affair with a former colleague.
That I'm sorry and that I'm working through it. But what I hear from them over and over is that they appreciate the job that we're doing, and they understand that I'm human.
Social media points to concerns about Forrest's alleged Sherwood residence, but he says he has homes there and in Little Rock, as well as businesses, and says he followed the rules. Also coming to light was a post on social media with Forrest calling Arkansas State Trooper recruits future terrorists.
Out of context, and they're using that to create that fear of that I don't support law enforcement. That's nowhere near. I support law enforcement. I recently was endorsed, several endorsers from law enforcement.
In Little Rock, Tanya Motorzitsky, THV 11 News.
We're not always voting on people either. After the break, a look at a change to ballot proposal petitions that's concerning some people. Welcome back. After years of controversy over who can gather signatures for ballot questions, the state is now trying to keep tabs on canvassers as they're doing their jobs. Tonight, Carter Thweet hears from advocates alarmed by these new investigators.
We had 2 canvassers that were collecting signatures. They were doing everything they were supposed to. We're very proud of how well trained our volunteers are.
Sam Watson is a spokesperson for Protect Our Rights, a group working to get issues on the ballot through Arkansas's petition process. To do so, they must get a certain number of signatures, which is what volunteers were doing last week at this Little Rock church when a man approached them.
The gentleman identified himself as an employee of the Secretary of State's office and said he was investigating petition fraud. And asked to take pictures of their IDs.
Julia Taylor was one of those volunteers. She told me via email that it's hard to be a volunteer canvasser and to recruit others, and this incident might make it harder. The Secretary of State's office now has their driver's licenses.
We feel that the government shouldn't be sending people, we're not really sure what legal authority this gentleman had to ask for those IDs, and so it's a concerning development.
I reached out to the Secretary of State's office to ask. A spokesperson said nobody has to show their IDs and added that the man, quote, wanted to be able to say who he witnessed following the laws. The man in question is a member of the Secretary of State's office whose job is to investigate petition fraud, a priority for Secretary of State Cole Jester, as he said last year.
We need reform to make sure that when our Constitution calls someone's signature on a petition a vote, that we have real voter integrity.
Watson says this doesn't accomplish that.
We're really proud of our canvassers for keeping their head. It can be a little intimidating when someone tells you they work for the government and needs to see your ID.
In Little Rock, Carter Thweet, THV 11 News.
Carter, thank you. That request to see an ID is notable since a new law requiring canvassers to check IDs of people signing their petitions has been put on hold by a federal judge. As of now, a canvasser needs to confirm you are an Arkansas voter, that you sign your name, and have a copy of the full ballot question for you to read if you want it. And before we go, some other changes coming up to the Capitol don't involve the people running the state. The Capitol building's historic bronze doors opened this week for the first time since the September 11 terrorist attacks in 2001. They were closed after the attacks for security reasons. Secretary of State Cole Jester says it's time for the doors to reopen. Doors will be open every Friday from 9 until noon, and they could expand over time. That's going to do it for us here on this special Election Central 11 on 11 on THV 11+. We'll see you back here next week.